Welcome to Deen Signal. Today we're doing a deep dive into a really personal story. It's about someone's journey, basically leaving a life driven by ego behind
Yeah.
and finding faith in Islam. It's a personal reflection, quite powerful.
Yeah, it really is. And I think it touches on something many people grapple with, that search for, real meaning
Yeah,
beyond just the surface stuff.
exactly. So our mission here is to unpack the key moments, the insights,
Mm.
what really happened to this transformation.
Let's try and get a clearer picture of the whole process, the motivations behind it all.
Okay, so where did this person start? The reflection paints a picture of someone really focused on, well, the usual suspects.
Right. Money, fame, power, that kind of thing. Very driven by personal achievement.
And very self-sufficient, almost like they felt they didn't need anything or anyone else.
That feeling of being totally in control, but there was something underneath.
Yeah, they mentioned feeling lost, this kind of internal conflict, even though on the outside.
They had it all, right? Ticking all the boxes society tells you mean success.
It's a common story, isn't it?
Yeah.
Chasing external validation.
It is. And that kind of success, it can be fragile. If your whole identity is tied up in things that can disappear.
Then what's left? That internal void they talk about seems almost inevitable then.
Yeah, it really highlights that difference between, external rewards and genuine inner peace.
So what was the catalyst? What started to shake that foundation?
Well, it sounds like real hardship, pain, failure,
Mm-hmm.
even betrayal.
Oof. Those things can really strip away the facade, can't they?
Definitely. And it's in those moments when the usual props are gone that the big questions start surfacing.
Like, what's the real point? Or
Ah.
who am I without all this stuff?
Exactly. That self-sufficient worldview just couldn't hold up anymore. The floor dropped out, like you said.
And that breakdown, that sort of dismantling of the ego,
Yeah,
it created space.
precisely. Space for real introspection. When your usual ways of feeling good about yourself stop working, you're forced to look deeper.
So they started searching, reading things, watching video.
Listening to people who talked about God. And that's when they encountered Islam.
And what was it about Islam that connected?
It seemed it wasn't about pressure, but this feeling, this profound inner peace that resonated.
That sense of coming home almost.
Kind of, yeah, an inner resonance. And specifically, the message of forgiveness was huge.
The idea that Allah can forgive if I truly turn to him.
Imagine hearing that when you're grappling with past mistakes or feeling inadequate. It must be incredibly freeing.
And it wasn't just abstract belief, right?
Yeah.
They saw it as a whole way of life.
Yes, comprehensive. Focusing on things like humility, kindness, justice. A purpose bigger than just yourself.
Which brings us back to the ego.
Right. They realized their own ego had been, deceiving them, putting their own desires front and center all the time.
Like a barrier to something more real.
Exactly. In many traditions, ego is that barrier. It separates us. The author realized true strength wasn't in self-reliance, but in submission.
Submission to the creator, not to fleeting desires or other people. That's a massive shift in perspective.
Huge. A total reorientation.
But they're honest, it wasn't easy. Letting go of that ego.
Oh, definitely not. It meant facing up to things, admitting wrongs, changing deep-seated habits, hard work.
A real internal struggle, it sounds like.
For sure. The ego fights back, It's an ongoing process. But the reward they describe.
Is finding real peace. Something deeper, more stable than the ups and downs of success.
Exactly. An inner serenity.
So where does that leave them now?
Well, they identify as Muslim, still growing, still facing challenges like anyone.
But with a difference.
Yeah, a sense of direction now, a connection. Certainty about the big questions like where we come from, where we're going.
A sense of belonging, purpose. That's powerful.
It really is. Moving from a life centered on the self to one anchored in a relationship with God changes everything. It gives you a different lens for navigating life.
And they have a message for you, the listener, right?
Yes. Basically, if you're searching, don't wait for a crisis to hit.
Be proactive. Seek out that connection now.
Because that's where they found the deepest fulfillment, in that connection to God.
It makes you wonder, doesn't it? Why wait for things to fall apart before we look deeper?
It's a great question. Their journey suggests that seeking, even when things seem okay on the surface, can lead somewhere much more meaningful.
So wrapping up this Deen Signal deep dive, the core takeaway seems to be about letting go.
Letting go of that ego-driven need for control and self-reliance.
And finding, in its place, a profound peace and purpose through faith. In this specific case, through Islam. shifting focus from the external.
to the internal, to that connection with something greater.
It leaves us with a final thought for you. We often measure life by external success, right? But could there be a tension there?
Yeah, a tension between that outward striving and our inner well-being. Maybe real fulfillment isn't about pushing harder on your own.
But finding peace in something beyond just our individual selves. Something to think about.